Metals and non-metals, part 3. Extraction of metals. So before studying extraction of metals, it is necessary to have a look on the reactivity series of metal. So this is a reactivity series, and in lesson 1 and lesson 2 also I told you to learn it because it's very important. You need it in all the 3 chapters. And if you want to study chemistry with a very ease, it is necessary that few things should be very clear to you. Reactivity series is one of them. The metals at the top of the activity series are potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium and aluminum. Are so reactive that they are never found in nature in free element form. So you'll always find them in combined form, means they cannot remain all alone. They react with some other thing and change into a compound. So they are always found in combined state. The metals in the middle of the activity series like zinc, iron and lead etc. are moderately reactive. They are found in the earth crust mainly as oxides, sulfides and carbonates. So when we look for their ores, we always find them in the form of oxides, sulfides or carbonates. And elements which are present below copper like the gold and silver, they are found in free state. These metals have a low reactivity. So as they have a low reactivity, they are generally found in free state, means they are found all alone. And when we talk about platinum and gold and all, so you find them all alone also. So how this question is being asked in exam is that they ask name few metals which are found in native state and few which are found in combined state. So combined state means which react with some other elements and form a compound. And what do you mean by native state? Means which are found all alone. So generally students get confused in the word native. Native means all alone. So the metals which are found in the lower portion like platinum and gold, they are found in native state. And elements which are on the topmost of the reactivity series, they are always found in the combined state. So it is very necessary to remember reactivity series so that you can easily learn these 3 chapters. Now let's talk about ores. Ores that are mined out from the earth contains contaminants with large amount of impurities including soil, sand etc. These are known as gangue. So you need to remember this word gangue because gangue means impurities which are present in the ore. So in the ore there are 2 things. One is your metal and the other is the impurities. So impurities will be called as a gangue. So these impurities must be removed from the ore before extraction of metal. So we need to remove it and we use different methods to remove it. The removal of gangue from the ore is dependent on the chemical properties of both gangue and ore. So when we have to remove these impurities, so we need to look at the properties of gangue particles also, we need to look at the properties of ore also. And only then we can decide which type of method we need to use to separate the gangue particles from the ore. So that's why we were studying the physical and the chemical properties of metals and non-metals, so that we can use those properties while separating the gangue particles from the ore. So you need to remember that when we take out a metal from earth, it has lots of impurities. And when we take out any metal from the earth, it is called as mineral. And from a mineral, if we are able to extract the metal easily and economically, then we call it as a ore. That's why very often the question is asked that every ore is a mineral, but every mineral is not a ore. Because mineral will be called as a ore only if the extraction of the metal is easy and economical from it. If it is not easy and economical, then we don't choose that mineral for extraction of metal. So you need to remember this question also. So this is a classification which is given in your NCERT book. So let us study this classification. First, we need to start from the ore. When we choose an ore, we first powder it. As possible, we have to grind them into smaller pieces. Then is the next step is the concentration of ore. Concentration of ore means we are trying to remove the impurities present in the ore, which is called as gangue particle, by physical method. So common physical method used are hydraulic washing, magnetic separation, and froth flotation method. So first method, that is hydraulic washing, is just you are washing the ore with water so that the dirt can be removed. Second is magnetic separation, means out of gangue particle or the ore, whichever is having a magnetic property, means whichever is being attracted toward the magnet will get separated. And the third one is froth flotation. In froth flotation, there is a froth flotation tank in which the powdered ore, water and the pine oil is mixed. Pine oil and water is insoluble, so the pine oil remains on the top and water remains at the bottom. Now the powdered ore also remains at the bottom, so compressed air is passed through this mixture, and when this compressed air is passed, so there is a agitation, पूरी हलचल हो जाती है, and that leads to the formation of froth. Froth means झाग. So this froth is formed on the top because the oil is on the top. This method is used because the gangue particles are water wetting nature, यानी कि gangue particles को पानी गीला करता है और वो नीचे उसको settle down कर देता है, टैंक के नीचे they settle down. Whereas the sulfide ores are oil wetting nature, so the oil उसको गीला कर देगा sulfide ore को. So the sulfide ore will remain on the top along with the froth, so it will be separated from it. After concentration of ore, then depends which method has to be used for separation of metal from the ore, depends upon the position of the metal in the reactivity series. If it is on the high position, it is very reactive, then electrolysis is used, means electricity is passed through it so that you get a pure metal. So this electrolysis will be studying in detail. If it is in middle order, then we use two methods. One is calcination, other one is roasting. Calcination is used for carbonate ores. You can remember CC, both common, calcination for carbonates. And for sulfide ores, we use roasting. So here you need to remember what is carbonate ore. Carbonate means अगर metal ने carbonate के साथ bond formation कर रखा है. Carbonate means CO3 के साथ bond formation कर रखा है. And sulfide ore, if metal has bond formation done with sulfur. So if it is a carbonate ore, we use calcination. Calcination is a method of heating the ore strongly in the absence of air. Whereas sulfide ores undergoes roasting, means the ore is heated strongly in the presence of air. So we'll be doing calcination and roasting in detail. After doing calcination or roasting, the end product is same in that in both the cases you get a metal oxide. So metal changes into its respective oxide. So the next step is that we need to remove this oxygen from the metal. And that step is called as reduction of metal. So using a reducing agent is an agent which has the capacity of removing oxygen from the metal. So after reduction of metal, then purification of metal is being done. Then if a metal is in the lower position of the reactivity series, and if it is sulfide ore, then again if it is a sulfide ore as we did it over here, similarly here also, whenever we have a sulfide ore, it undergoes roasting, and after roasting we get a metal. So in this case you need to remember that metals which are in the lower position, after roasting we get a pure metal, whereas if they are in the middle portion, after roasting we are getting the oxide of the metal, then we need to reduce it and then we are getting the metal. But if the metal is in the lower position of the reactivity series, it automatically after getting roasting, undergoing roasting, it changes into a pure metal. It doesn't combine with the oxygen. Reason? Because in chemical properties you have already studied that the metals which are in the lower position of the reactivity series, they don't readily react and combine with oxygen. So after getting the metal, we refine it. Refining means we are trying to remove more impurities if any present in it. So we are trying to make the metal 99.9% pure. So this is the classification of metallurgy, how metallurgy is being conducted depending upon the position of metal in the reaction. So let us study the extraction of metal low in the reactivity series, की जो reactivity series में नीचे वाली जगह ऑक्यूपाई कर रहे हैं, उन मेटल्स में मेटलर्जी कैसे की जाती है, यानी कि मेटल को ओर में से अलग से कैसे किया जाता है. So these metals are low in reactivity series, and we are going to study two metals. One is the mercury and the copper. So these metals have low reactivity. These oxides of these metals can be reduced to metal by heating alone. So this is the benefit of these metal कि इसमें हमें किसी reducing agent की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती, and it can be purified by heating alone only. So let's take the first example, cinnabar ore. So cinnabar ore is the name of mercury sulfide. So mercury के ore का नाम है cinnabar ore. So you need to remember the name also, you need to remember the formula also. Is an ore of mercury which on exposure to heat first gets converted into mercuric oxide, and on further heating it gets reduced to mercury. So look at the reaction and try to understand it. So this is the cinnabar ore. So as it is a sulfide ore, in concentration of ore we are going to use the froth flotation method. So because froth flotation method is always used for sulfide ores. So after froth flotation, then it has to be heated. So this is the reaction that is going to take place after froth flotation. Mercuric sulfide will combine with oxygen during heating process. So this triangular structure is shown for heating. It changes into mercuric oxide, plus you get sulfur dioxide. So this is the benefit we are getting in this reaction, that we are getting rid of sulfur. हमें उससे sulfur से छुटकारा मिल रहा है because it's changing into sulfur dioxide. Secondly, हमें उससे जब छुटकारा मिल रहा है तो sulfur is changing into a gas. So second benefit is that we don't have a problem of removing this impurity, because it's a gas. It's automatically going to escape. It will because gases have a tendency of easily getting removed off. So you'll be getting mercuric oxide. Now the next process is that we need to remove this oxygen also from mercury, so that we get only mercury. And for this it's very easy, that you need to just heat, because already you are heating, so you need to continue heating. So mercuric oxide will be heated after the formation, and as a result you will get mercury separately and oxygen will get separated. So this is how you are getting a mercury very easily without using any reducing agent. आपको कोई reducing agent use ही नहीं करना पड़ा जिसको oxygen इससे हटाना पड़ा हो. So this is called as self reduction, means वो अपने आप ही reduce हो गया by heating alone. So by only heating it got reduced. Next metal that we need to study is copper sulfide. So it's called as a copper pyrite. This is the name of the ore. So copper sulfide is heated strongly in the presence of air. So in mercury also we were heating sulfide ore in the presence of air because oxygen was involved. So this process is called as roasting. So first step, if you want to name it, first step, this reaction was roasting of mercuric sulfide, and the second reaction was reduction of mercuric oxide. So first one is roasting of mercuric sulfide, second is reduction of mercuric oxide. So you can give a heading to these two reactions also, because these are the steps. Similarly, when we study copper sulfide, so copper sulfide also undergoes roasting because it's a sulfide ore. You always need to remember, whenever there is a sulfide ore, whether it is of any metal, it is going to undergo roasting. So during roasting what happens is that the copper changes into copper oxide, and the sulfur combines with oxygen and changes into a gas and escapes, just like mercury case. So but in this there is a twist. What is the twist that you need to remember is that when this process is going on, ये बहुत बड़ी बड़ी भट्टियाँ होती हैं जिसमें ये process चल रहा होता है कि heating चल रही होती है. When it is being assumed that almost half or slightly more than half of the copper sulfide has undergone roasting, then the supply of air is being cut off. जो opening होती है, ऊपर का ढक्कन होता है, उसको बंद कर दिया जाता है, so that air cannot enter. Now the reaction will take place. The reaction is still continuing, but it will take place in the absence of air. What will be the benefit of this? Let's study in the next reaction. When the supply of air will be cut off, then oxygen is not available. So this reaction will start taking place, that the copper oxide which has formed will start reacting with the copper sulfide which is left. मीन्स जो कॉपर सल्फाइड कॉपर ऑक्साइड में बदल चुका है आधे के करीब या आधे से ज़्यादा, वो किससे रिएक्ट करना शुरू करेगा? जो बचा हुआ कॉपर सल्फाइड है उससे रिएक्ट करना शुरू. सो दे बोथ ऑफ देम दे आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट रिएक्टिंग विद ईच अदर एंड एज अ रिजल्ट यू विल गेट कॉपर प्लस सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड. सो हियर ऑल्सो यू आर नॉट needing any reducing agent. So this is the twist in the reaction, that we are not using any reducing agent. The trick used over here is that the copper sulfide, after getting changed into copper oxide, when half of the reaction has been done, the supply of air is stopped, so that this reaction can start taking place, that the copper oxide that is formed will start reacting with the copper sulfide that is left, and this reaction is going to take place, and ultimately we will get rid of sulfur, which is an impurity present in the ore, and we will get a pure copper also. Extracting metals in the middle of the reactivity series. So in the previous slide we studied about the reactions which are involved in a metal which are in the lower position in the reactivity series. Now we are going to talk about those metals which are in the middle of the reactivity series, like zinc, iron, lead, etc. So they are found in the earth crust mainly as oxides, sulfides or carbonates. So these are the three forms in which we get it in earth crust. It is easy to extract a metal from their oxides as compared to their sulfides and carbonates. So this you need to remember. But if we get a metal which is present in the form of a sulfide or carbonate, so we need to use some extra steps. Whereas if a metal is present in the form of oxide, it's easier to extract that metal. Therefore, metal sulfides and metal carbonate must be converted to metal oxide. So whenever we get a metal sulfide or a metal carbonate, so we need to convert it into its oxide form, and then we need to remove that oxygen, and then we get the pure metal. So this conversion of sulfide ore into their oxides by heating strongly in the presence of excess air is known as roasting. So this gives you the definition of roasting. So in roasting, sulfide ores are strongly heated in the presence of plenty of air. Excess of air means air is available in plenty. So let's take an example of roasting. Though we have studied roasting in the previous slide also when we were studying mercuric sulfide and copper sulfide. So let's take one more example over here. Zinc sulfide, when heated in the presence of air strongly, changes into zinc oxide plus you get sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide is a gas and will escape. So in this process the sulfur has been removed very easily, but now the metal has changed into its oxide. So the next step will be that we need to remove this oxygen also. And you may be thinking that why we are changing the sulfide into oxide, because it's easier to remove oxygen from a metal as compared to removing a sulfur from a metal. So first we remove the sulfur from any metal by the method of roasting, and then there are many methods to remove oxygen from a metal. So removing oxygen from a metal is not a difficult task, and during this process the sulfur that is being removed is removed in the gaseous form, so it is also easy to remove it. Now we need to study about calcination. So during calcination, carbonate ores are heated strongly in the presence of limited air, or you can say, in other words, you can say that absence of air. So this method is used for carbonate ores. So you can see we have taken an example of zinc carbonate. This is mentioned in your NCERT book also. So as air is not present, so we are not writing oxygen as a reactant. So when carbonate ores are heated in the absence of air, they change into their oxides plus carbon dioxide is produced. Again, carbon dioxide is a gas, so will easily escape. So here we have got rid of carbon from here, and we have got the oxides of that particular respective metal. Next thing that we need to study is displacement reaction is also used to derive metals from their ores. Highly reactive metals displaces the low reactive metals from their compounds. The displacement reactions are highly exothermic and hence the metals are produced in the molten state. Example, manganese dioxide is heated with magnesium powder. So you can consider it as a different type of reaction, or we need to see that there are certain metals where it's not so easy to remove the oxygen from that particular metal. So generally we use carbon as a reducing agent because carbon has a strong affinity towards oxygen. So carbon is a good reducing agent, and the form of carbon that we are using as a reducing agent in metallurgical processes is coke. We never use coal. So this is a very common question asked in the exams, that why we use coke and not coal. Coal is a fossil fuel, all of you know, and coke is a destructive distillation product of coal. Means when coal is heated, in the absence of air, coal gets converted into coke. So during this process, impurities from the coal are being removed, and coke has more percentage of carbon as compared to coal. Due to that reason, coal is more used, because if instead of using coke we are going to use coal, the impurities which are present in the coal is going to actually interfere in the metallurgical reactions, making the metallurgical processes more difficult. But the metals from which oxygen is difficult to be removed using carbon, so in that cases more reactive metals are being used so that their oxygen can be removed. So this is an example. Like manganese oxide, it's not very easy to remove oxygen from manganese oxide. So to remove oxygen from it, aluminium is being used. So in this reaction you can see that after a reaction, manganese is all alone in the form of a liquid, because this reaction is an exothermic reaction, and you are getting aluminium oxide plus heat is released. So this is an example of a displacement reaction, because displacement reaction is taking place simultaneously because heat is also released. So it's also an example of exothermic reaction. So in this case you can see that one metal is being used to remove the oxygen from another metal. This particular type of reaction are also used in other walks of life also. So let's study one of such reaction. It's called as a thermite reaction. It's also called as the aluminothermite process. So let's have a look on this reaction. The reaction of iron oxides with aluminium is used for joining railway tracks or cracked machinery parts. This reaction is known as thermite reactions. You know that in India and most of the countries, iron is used for making public structures or the government structures like the railway tracks, the bridges, and many more such things. Now what happens, these are huge structures, and in case there is some crack in it and it need to be repaired, it's not so easy to take that huge structure to the factories and all, or neither the machines can come to that particular huge structure. Sometimes they are so tall, or sometimes they are so bigger in size. So this is a very common effective method being used if the cracks are there. So if the cracks are there, they can be sealed. If too much of breakage is there, then definitely the part need to be replaced. But if there is a crack, then it can be managed at that time also, so that the problem doesn't become bigger. So what is being done in this case is that you can see in the reaction it's written S. S means solid. So solid form of ferric oxide is being taken plus solid form of aluminium is taken. So you can carry these two things easily, because in a powdered form you can carry them in a small container, no problem regarding that. Now when you mix these two solids and you ignite it, so you need to use some machinery, A picture is also given in your NCERT book. You can have a look on that picture, that how a particular person is handling the railway track. So a heating device is being taken along with these two solid powders, and when you start igniting it, as it is an exothermic reaction, you just need to start the reaction. Remaining reaction will automatically be handled because already the heat is being produced during the reaction. And what are the products we are getting? We are getting liquid iron and we are getting solid aluminum oxide. So this is something really interesting. So when this reaction takes place, you are getting iron in the form of liquid, and liquid, you know, that has the property of flowing. So it flows and occupies the cracks of the machinery. Whereas aluminum oxide, it is in the form of solid, so it doesn't enter into the cracks, remains on the sides only. And this liquid iron, by flowing nature, it enters into the cracks, and when the reaction stops, this liquid iron, with the passage of time, slowly and slowly gets solidified and fills the crack. Now the crack is filled and the machinery is safe now. So it's necessary to maintain the railway tracks, because if the cracks are there and these cracks with the passage of time starts becoming bigger and bigger, it can lead to a railway accident. So in the initial level, this is the reaction which is easy and can be easily handled and can be done to maintain the railway tracks and the other machinery like bridges and all. So this was all about the reactions of metallurgical processes that we use in different metallurgical processes, and how we use it in other walks of life also. So let's proceed. Extraction of metals towards the top of the reactivity series. So we studied in one slide, we studied about the metals which were low in the reactivity series. Then we studied about the middle order. Now we are going to study about the higher order. So metal which are present in the higher order of the reactivity series. The metals are highly reactive and cannot be obtained from their compounds by heating with carbon. So here carbon cannot be used as a reducing agent. Carbon is not going to work at all. So in these cases. So what to do? We need to use some other method. These metals have more affinity for oxygen. So the metals which are on the topmost position of the reactivity series, they are already having so much of high affinity, means lagav. So they have so much of high affinity towards oxygen that they don't want to lose oxygen. So it's not so easy to remove oxygen from them. So sodium ion, how sodium metal has to be obtained, so we are going to study in this particular slide. In this particular slide, you need to understand that this is a diagram given over here, that we are going to take a molten sodium chloride. You need to remember that we are taking a molten sodium chloride, because students at times forget and they use an aqueous solution of sodium chloride. You can never use an aqueous solution of sodium chloride. This is a tricky question also asked, that why do we use a molten sodium chloride and not a aqueous sodium chloride? Because I'll explain you why during the process. When you take a molten sodium chloride, now sodium and chlorine atoms will get separated, means their ions will get separated, basically I want to say, because sodium and chlorine is an ionic bond. So they get dissociated. So in the structure you can see that the sodium and chlorine ions are present. So when electricity is going to pass through it, so you can see that this positive is being written. So electrode which is positive is called as a anode, and the electrode which is negative is called as a cathode. How do we decide that which electrode is going to behave as a positive and which is going to behave as a negative one? It depends to which terminal it is attached to the battery. So whichever electrode will be attached to the negative terminal will behave as a negative electrode, and whichever electrode will be attached to the positive terminal of the battery will be behaving as a positive electrode. Got it? So positive electrode is called as an anode and the negative electrode is called as a cathode. Now look at the ions now. Sodium has a positive charge. So as it has a positive charge, it is going to be attracted towards the cathode. whereas chlorine is negatively charged, so automatically it gets attracted towards the positive electrode. So what happens is when the sodium is attracted towards the cathode, so from the cathode, as you can even see the flow of electrons shown over here. So cathode electrode has a tendency of giving electrons. So here you can see what is happening at the cathode. So you need to write these reactions also, that at cathode, what is the reaction taking place? At cathode, the sodium ion is actually getting electron. From where the ion is getting the electron? From circuit. So when sodium ion is going to accept this electron, it will again change into sodium atom. And as soon as sodium atom will be formed, it is again, because you know that sodium is a solid, because sodium is a metal and all the metals are solid except mercury. So now you have got a pure solid metal. Now here you need to understand what I was telling is why we have taken a molten NaCl and not an aqueous solution. Like here the sodium metal is being formed. As soon as it is being formed, it has to be separated out, removed from there, and you need to keep it in kerosene because it is very reactive. But in case if you would have taken an aqueous solution of sodium chloride, then as soon as sodium would have been formed, it would have been changed into sodium hydroxide due to the presence of water. It would have reacted with water and would have changed into sodium hydroxide, and you cannot get a sodium, rather you will get a sodium hydroxide. So that is the reason that we don't use an aqueous solution of sodium chloride and we use a molten sodium chloride. Now let's have a look what is happening at anode. At anode, the sodium will not go there because sodium is already positive, so it will be away from it. Who is going to go there? Chlorine is going to go to anode because anode is positive and chlorine is negatively charged. So there is a force of attraction between them. So as I told that at cathode electrons will be given, similarly at anode electrons will be taken and will go into the circuit. So electrons will be taken away from the chlorine ion, and as soon as electrons will be taken away from the chlorine ion will again change into an atom, because chlorine will again have the same number of electrons and protons, because this electron which is present was given by sodium. So it was an extra, that's why it was showing a charge. So as soon as somebody will take away, so anode will take away this electron from the chlorine and chlorine will change into an atom. And it is the nature of chlorine that chlorine atom cannot remain all alone. So as soon as chlorine is going to change into one atom, so this one more atom will be formed. So as soon as two atoms of chlorine are formed, they will combine with each other and they will form a molecule. So at this end, chlorine gas will be released. You can see in the diagram, chlorine gas will be formed and it will try to escape, whereas the sodium will get deposited on the cathode and from time to time it will be removed from this rod and will be kept in the kerosene to keep it safe. Refining of metal. Refining of metal is making the metal more fine, means trying to attain a metal which is 99.9% pure. So there are certain metals which we need to be very pure. So metals such as copper, zinc, tin, nickel and silver and gold etc. are refined electrolytically after obtaining them from their ores. An impure metal is made the anode. So whichever metal you want to purify, that particular metal is changed into a rod form and is attached to the positive terminal of the battery. Whereas the thin strip of the same metal which is earlier obtained and is pure is made as cathode. A solution of respective metal salt is used as electrolyte. Electric current is passed through it. So now let's have a look on the diagram so that you can understand it better. So this is an electrolytic tank. This is anode positively charged electrode, and this is a impure copper rod. Whereas cathode is a pure copper rod and is attached to negative terminal of the battery, so that's why it's a cathode. So during this particular process, when electricity will be passed, what is going to happen is that we are taking a copper salt in it as an electrolyte. So we will be taking an acidified copper sulfate solution as an electrolyte. So this is few things which you need to remember. Whichever metal you want to electrolytically refine it, the impure rod of that particular metal should always be on anode, and on cathode also same metal but pure metal, same metal. So metal should be same. So here also copper, here also copper. The difference is this is an impure rod, this is a pure rod. Third thing, whichever metal you are refining, salt of same metal should be taken over here. So when electricity will be passed, there will be a reaction taking place at cathode and anode both. So what will be the reaction taking place at cathode and what will be the reaction taking place at anode? Let us study. So when electricity will pass through it, as the solution has copper ions in it, copper ions, as they are positively charged, they will be attracted towards the negative electrode. So they are going to be attracted towards the negative electrode because oppositely charged. So when they are going to move towards cathode, cathode is going to give them electrons. As always, cathode end has the habit of giving electron, and copper ion will take 2 electrons because copper ion is having 2 electrons less. That's why it's having a 2 positive charge. And as soon as it will accept those 2 electrons, copper ion will change into a copper atom. And as soon as it is going to change into copper atom, it will get deposited on the rod. I repeat, copper ions from the solution will get attracted towards the cathode, and when they will reach cathode, cathode rod is going to give them electrons, and as they will accept 2 electrons, they will change into copper atom, and copper is solid at room temperature, that we know it. So the atoms of copper are solid, whereas ions of copper can dissolve in water, but atoms of copper cannot dissolve in water, so they will get deposited on it. And what is going to happen on the anode end? At the anode end, as the anode rod is actually an impure copper rod, atoms of copper from the rod will lose 2 electrons. Those 2 electrons will go into the circuit, and as soon as copper atom is going to lose 2 electron, copper will change into a cation, and after changing into a cation, it will go into the solution, as the arrow is being shown over here. So it will go into the solution, and from the solution it will go towards the cathode, and from cathode again it will get 2 electrons, it will get deposited over here. So this is the reaction taking place, that the atom from the anode rods are losing electrons and changing into ion and going to the solution, and from the solution they are going attracted towards the cathode, and when they reach the cathode they will accept 2 electrons, change into an atom and deposit on it. So this reaction will keep on taking place till you are supplying electricity. So as this reaction goes on, the copper from the rod goes to the solution, from the solution it gets deposited on the cathode. So slowly and slowly all the atoms from the anode rod will slowly and slowly move and get deposited on the cathode. But what about the impurities? So impurities are not going to participate in this reaction, and impurities will get settled down at the bottom. And these impurities which will settle down at the bottom of the tank are called as anode mud. So during this process, anode will become thinner and thinner whereas cathode will become thicker and thicker. So now these particular questions are always being framed during the test and exams, that it looks as if anode rod is being eaten up. What does it mean? Because reason during this reaction, anode rod is slowly and slowly become thinner and thinner. So what happens? Why does it look as if anode rod is being eaten up? So this is just a twisting question being asked to you, so that you need to explain it, that atoms from the anode rod has moved to the solution, and from the solution they have got deposited. So you have to entire process, you have to explain it. So this is the entire process that takes place, and the same process, if you are not going to attach a thin pure copper rod, and if you are going to attach something else over here, like let's take an example that you attach a iron rod over here. So on the iron rod, copper is going to get deposited. So the reaction will remain the same, the process will remain the same. But if you are going to attach a iron rod over here and copper gets deposited on an iron rod, then the same process will be called as the electroplating. Means some other metal is deposited on some other metal. So but when we do the refining, then we keep the metal same, because in case if you are going to take iron rod and you are going to deposit copper on it, and then there is one more problem, that you how to remove it. So during electrolytic refining, we keep the same metal. So as we have kept copper, and copper is deposited on the copper rod. So this will become thinner, thicker and thicker, whereas this is going to become thinner and thinner. Now passing electric current through the electrolyte dissolves the pure metal from the anode into the electrolyte, and an equal amount of pure metal from the electrolyte gets deposited on the cathode. The soluble impurities goes into the electrolyte, and the insoluble impurities settles down at the bottom of the anode and is termed as anode mud. So let's study further and try to understand what is the next topic in this particular lesson. No one can destroy iron, but its own rust can. Likewise, no one can destroy a person, but one's own mindset can. So you need to keep your mindset in such a situation that you always succeed. So with this quotation, I end this lesson. Stay safe and take care of yourself.